What's good, Denver? It's Shelly Martinez, your host of Chopping It Up with Shelly at Hollywood Barbershop.
This is the barbershop. Barbershop. This is the barbershop. The place where a black man means so.
Barbershop. I have the ladies in the house tonight. A couple of my friends up here. We have Nicky, used to be here, barber at Hollywood Barbershop. I have Keisha, who is also, what do you do, Keisha?
Nothing special.
Whatever. She's a poet. She's a poet.
I love it.
And mom,
Poetry, hey.
she's fine, just like the rest of us, you know.
Hey, Zag.
I got Zag in the house over here.
Hey, Zag.
And you've got your own podcast, right?
Yep, Talent You Should Know.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So Talent You Should Know features creatives in the forefront and behind the scenes. So that's producers, managers, it can be photographers, singers, actors, just anyone that you should know that, you know, up and coming, all of that. So,
Nice.
yeah, that's dope. Yeah, poets.
There you go. Cha-ching.
Slip you my card.
I know that's right. Well, tonight we're bringing the juice. Okay. Tonight we're talking about what it's like for us right now in the dating world. What our relationships have been like in the past, and what we're looking forward to in the future. Right now, I am single right now. I have been through a couple of situationships, a couple of, you know, it seems like lately in the dating world it's very hard, you know, to find someone who is about relationship. You know, it seems like, you know, as a woman in my life, it seems like I'm always presented with like casual and situationships a lot. And because of my past and because of, you know, childhood trauma that I have, it doesn't work well for me. I need stability. I need, you know, commitment in relationship, you know, and as we know, relationships are an investment. You know, it's an investment of time, emotion, physical stuff, and sometimes financially, you know, and that's a lot, you know, to put into something and someone that you're not getting much back from, you know.
Yeah.
Where are you guys at as far as your singleness or your dating life? Is Nicky, are you in a relationship?
I am somewhat, and I can explain that.
Okay.
Because it's true.
Yeah, okay.
So as you were saying, Shelly, relationship out of all things in my life has been the most challenging. I give it my all. I'm a lover. I love hard. I'm committed. I'm loyal to anyone I love, not just in a relationship with a man, but my children, my family, my friends. You know, I'm just my work. I'm a very committed individual and committed minded. And so this particular situation, I am dating, getting to know this person, which is kind of a first for me because I usually, once we kiss, it's on. And if I like you, I like you. There's no halfway with me. I'm either hot or cold. I'm working on possibly creating a median, but I haven't gotten there yet. Because either I'm gonna do it or I'm not. And I take that mentality to everything I do. And so in that, the relationship I am in, I don't want to jump ahead, but it has brought up what you were saying about childhood trauma and mental health. So working all that in, when we get to that, I'll be happy to express more on that. But I love my men. I've been boy crazy since I've been born, I think.
I hear you. I feel you on that one.
And particularly, I love my black men. I want to love them to health. I want to love them, you know, because I know what we're missing. And I thank God for giving me sons. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter. And I love my boys, and they love their mama. And that was a goal of mine. And I think it starts there.
And it's unfortunate that the conditioning in society towards people of color, black women and black men, and that dynamic of relationship, we have talked about this before, to where if you condition the black man to hate himself, then he looks at his woman as a reflection of himself, and so now you have a wall there that you can't get, you cannot, it breaks up the family structure and everything, so how do you break that? How do you break that barrier down to where you can connect with the black man as a black woman? That's what we need to figure out. And then it does go to mental health, and then it does get even deeper with childhood trauma on both sides, because a lot of us do come from broken homes and stuff like that, and so where do we go from there?
I think what's dope that you said, I have a son too, he's 19, and that's my boondock boom. Like, you can't not tell my son anything about me. Like, he will go to war. But the thing that I love and respect about him so much is, first, he knows his worth. He doesn't do drama. Like, if he feels like you're not treating him right, he's not going to deal with that. But he's very respectful of me. He doesn't let me touch the trash. He doesn't let me touch a door handle. Even if we're coming out of the shop, he'll push the door open for me and let me walk out first. And I think, and I don't know if you do this, it's one of those things where, like, you know how you want it to be treated, regardless to how you've allowed yourself to be treated. You know how you want to be treated, and that's how you teach. You raise your son.
Yes.
To be respect, like, he calls everyone sir, ma'am, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Very nice.
I agree. And
And
with that.
hats off to you. That's
Yes.
amazing. That's good.
Yes, that's a blessing.
So I think a lot of times for black men, there's a disconnect, because there's a lot of black men who are diehard for their moms that hate women, and specifically sometimes black women.
That's
And
heavy.
so I think in that instance, the disconnect is you have to be able to be comfortable with loving your mom, but acknowledging where she fell short,
Yep.
Yes.
where she mistreated you,
Yep.
where she failed you as a parent, to be able to fully love yourself and potentially connect with black women. Because whenever a black man is like, I don't date black women because they difficult, they this and that, I'm like, oh, you got your own issues.
It's a
It's one thing to have a
I
preference,
believe it.
and it's one thing to have like
Yes.
a bunch of hate. Because
Yes.
I'm gonna date anybody who gonna treat me right.
That
Like, I
part.
really don't care what color
Right.
you are.
That part.
And black men be like, they feel like they can jump the line, but you're supposed to stay over here and be sad and miserable because they left you. Because it's almost like for some of them, it's like a form of punishment.
It is.
It's like they want
Yes.
to, stick it to the, instead of sticking it to the man, they're
Yeah.
sticking it to the sister.
Right.
Well, my
Right.
son,
Right,
for
right.
a
Putting it
while,
back.
my son, he used to say that. He used to say, black girl, because we're from Jersey, right, and we came here. And
Mhm.
so, somewhere around 14 or 15, he liked like the white chicks that were here. And he said the black women, he said, they're more challenging. I said, because they're worth it. And I said, and you don't want anything that's too easy. And to go back to what you said, like, my dialogue with him, like, we've cried together. I've said, listen, I know that you've been through some things. Tell me when, you know what I'm saying, you feel like I've said something that hurt you, or like, I'll get mad at him. I never call him out his name. There is never a time, even in adult relationships, you will not hear me calling someone a piece of shit, an asshole, because you cannot take words back.
Right.
But like, if I get annoyed with him, and I'll come back and I'll say, there's a reason why I'm angry. Do you understand why I'm angry? And if I'm wrong, I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe you didn't eat the last piece of chicken. I'm sorry. I woke up in the middle of the night.
Even little things like that.
Yeah.
Like, do we as moms take the time to acknowledge
Yeah.
where we've done our children a disservice?
Yes.
My oldest son is 24. And so I've had to have conversation with him because I raised him in an abusive relationship. So there's been a double back. And
Right.
I've had to say, hey, you know what? These are my issues
Yeah.
that I'm dealing with. And these are the ones that I gave you
Yeah.
as a result of that.
Yeah.
And have that honest conversation about what that looks like. Like, hey, you know what? You probably, even things that he probably hasn't considered for himself, you probably have abandonment issues because I was at work all the time. I was
Right.
at work all the time because I don't be home with this beating ass nigga.
Right.
But
I'm done.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
But I'm
True.
just saying, But, when you're in that type of relationship, you convince yourself, like, this man's not going to do that to his own flesh. And then after a while, you're like, no, he's going to do it to everybody because he hates himself.
Right.
He hates himself. He still hasn't reconciled his issues with his mom. And the reality is, I don't think anybody gets out of childhood, really, very few people, without some form of trauma, because we always learn in our childhood how to deal and cope. That's how we made it out.
Yeah.
And those habits that we have, we carry those on, and that's how we use them in every relationship and how we relate to every person. And so, as far as you said something about how do we help reconcile for black men, something I encourage you to go help yourself, because I can't do it. I can't carry that. And see, the thing that's happened over the last few decades is we've been, as black women, carrying and lifting and holding and pushing and pulling and all these other things. And the reality is that hasn't necessarily done us any justice with black men as a whole, because that has kept them from having to have a level of self-awareness and self-accountability that would actually propel them to the place where we know that they can be. And until they take the time to do the inside work like we're having to do, because have black women in therapy, like that's the thing, like we're doing it, like I'm going to therapy, like you need I got a therapist, I know a therapist. There's finally more therapists of color, so you can get culturally competent care. I cannot tell you how terrible the care was trying to do it with white therapists.
Yes.
Because they didn't understand.
Very challenging.
Traumatizing.
Very
this
challenging.
woman, I wrote a whole poem about her, letter to my white therapist, but she told me, and I'm in the middle of getting divorced. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to therapy because I don't know what my issues are that let me be okay with being in this for the last 15 years. Like, you tripping.
Right.
Yeah.
You need help.
Yeah. Wanted to figure it out.
And so I'm talking to her, I'm going through with different things, and I'm talking to her about the fact that he won't leave the house. And she's like, give him an ultimatum. And I'm like, oh, did you listen to none of the rest of our sessions?
Yeah.
Like, I could swear last week we talked about me being pinned down in the closet with a shotgun to my head, and you're like,
I've been there.
ultimatum?
Oh yeah.
Bless y'all.
Ultimatum?
Yeah.
I'm like, that sounds like murder-suicide. Like,
Definitely. Yeah.
what are you talking about?
Telling them to leave, like,
So yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, is that just the audacity of white women that feel like they could say these types of things?
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe she doesn't know anything about abuse to be counseling abuse. Like, I don't know what all levels of education and understanding she needed, but that wasn't it. And that was my last day with her.
Yeah. Good.
I was like, I'm gonna just wait
Yeah.
until I find somebody who speaks Negro.
If I may
This ain't gonna work.
interject with what both of you, 2 points both of you brought up, childhood trauma and having that talk. And I love that we all have sons, nephews to do so. So I was pretty young, 15, 16, first got pregnant, had my son. My mom was very unhappy about me coming home telling her I was pregnant, so she made me leave. Had to figure it out immediately that day. Told the father I was pregnant. He wasn't happy with the news either. My mind just, I can't even tell you what happened to my mind. I ended up staying, he once my mother put me out, literally the same day, went back and had to go cry to him. I need your help right now. He actually helped me, find somewhere to stay. Not very safe, but I had a roof over my head for a little bit. That was traumatizing. I wasn't expecting it. I had to grow from that. And that was the seed that was planted at that time. I had my first son, then I had another son, and by this time, my mind and my brain started working differently. You had said something earlier about where does God fit in. Not until you really kind of get older can you look back and see certain things that took place and steps that took place to get you where you are mentally and physically. I knew my Creator was with me when I got older. I was like, He was there this whole time. I just didn't recognize it. I was went to church, that, you know, grew up in the church, so that wasn't it, because I still had to get older to even understand what I heard then. But a lot of things started to be more self-taught in my mind. So I see this struggle before me, and I'm saying to myself, you've got to do something. You can't not do anything, because you're responsible for these lives. And I took that responsibility. So you didn't hear me talking about child support, looking for these cats, trying to stay with them, none of that. I got these kids, I got me, we got stuff to do, I got to handle this. And that gave me that confidence as a young woman. Mom put me out, so that broke our relationship. It just did. You know, I've been trying to soothe it, but I can't fix it. It's been broken and beyond my control. I vowed not to be to my children what I felt my mother was to me. My father was in my life. I'm a daddy's girl. I know I said this last time. I love saying I'm daddy's girl. I love my daddy. He, you know, he helped with the creation of a beautiful woman. I give him that credit. I give my mother credit for showing me strength at times. But she didn't show me parenting. Her father dropped out of school in the 3rd grade. We don't think about these things until we get older. And I keep saying that because that's when the choice becomes yours. So with that situation taking place like it did, and me having to say I have to be responsible, as I'm self-teaching myself to be this parent, I don't know what's right or wrong. I know to whoop if you're tripping. I know to talk to you, let you know why I whooped you. I'm not taking no mess. Y'all boys, you gotta be tough. I'm a woman, your daddy's not around. Like all these things, and this is everything in a pot at once. I started to tell myself, okay, I can't keep whooping them. I don't know where this came from, and it's just kind of coming out, you know. I can't keep whooping them. I don't want them to beat on women. I don't want them to think they have to hit somebody to get a response or a result, or to get their point across, or to communicate. So I had to stop whooping them. I was a whooper. I was whooped.
I'm a
copper.
I got whooped.
I got whooped.
I got
And I was a
Shoulder in the ear.
I was
You gotta talk to them in their throat, otherwise, yeah. I
right.
remember
And
those days.
so I had to pull back, and that just clicked to me. Like
Yeah.
this isn't what you want them to understand.
Yeah.
So kind of pulled back on that. Start doing more talking. Then we have a tendency as women, and I'm not talking about black women. I'm talking about women, mothers, especially when you're starting young. If you didn't have any guidance, sometimes if you did, depending on what that looked like. We would tell our sons, don't cry. You don't cry. You're a boy. You don't be sensitive. We deal with that now as an adult. It then kicked us in the butt because we told these men they can't be sensitive. You have to be strong at all times. This is 3 years old. This is 2 years old, 4 years old. And we didn't realize at that time the seeds we were planting. And I'm guilty of that until I realized I was doing that. So then I started to say, hey, you cry when your feelings is hurt. If you hurt yourself, you know, you shed your emotion, you show your emotion. But if you're just whining to whine, that's not a good thing. And I didn't like it. It's irritating to me. And, you know, just being honest, I was like, dang, you can't just be talking to your kids like this. Show them some, you know, be a little more. And I'm like, no, I'm raising men. You said it earlier. The men that we would like to have in our lives, the way we would like to be treated, that's who my sons are. And not in that one weird way where some women won't let their sons be. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
And that's why I don't call him the man of the house.
Okay.
Because that's a huge responsibility to put on a child.
too.
Okay.
You are my son.
Yeah.
I am the woman of this house, and you will be a man of someone else's, of your own home.
Yeah.
But you are not the man of this house.
Yeah.
Because that's so heavy.
It's so much responsibility.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Thank you.
So,
I hate
yeah.
that that's something that we culturally perpetuate
Yeah.
for single moms.
Yes.
Like that's a standard
Yes.
or an expectation, and I
It
feel like
is
it's okay.
because we don't want them to think that they are not in a man's position when we've dealt with so many different types of men in front of them. I just don't think a lot of women are educated like we are, obviously, to be able to, you know,
Yeah.
bring that up. To say I don't really like that. That's not where I'm putting you. Here.
Right.
You
Yeah.
have a place, just not here.
Yeah. I think my son probably thinks that I don't like boys. My youngest son is 5. And so, honestly, when I got pregnant with him and the way that relationship broke, I was like, obviously we still need some more therapy because we're picking the wrong Negroes still. And so I've really been really conscious and intentional about being single in this season. Would I love a relationship? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I want to be able to bring
You want it healthy.
a whole version of myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend all of my time
Fixing.
going back and forth to therapy, or we got to go to therapy because I got these issues,
Yeah.
or I still got these issues. So now I done picked another one who don't got all the
Yeah.
same issues, but like 30%
Something.
of them.
There's
You know what I'm
something.
saying?
There's always
Like I don't
something.
expect you to be like perfect and wrapped up in a bow
Yeah.
because it's gonna be hard either way.
Mhm.
But
At least you
I
could
need
show up
Right.
better.
some level of
and
healing and
whole and healthy.
understanding and
Yes.
emotional
Yes.
maturity and
Yes.
all of those
Yeah.
things. Like we might end up in counseling either way.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be like out the gate.
Yeah.
And then what you said about telling our sons that are man of the house, I had a whole argument with one of my good guy friends. He came to the house so I could help him with his website. When he was leaving, he stops to say to my son, hey, you the man of this house, you're supposed to protect. I said, no, you won't. You're supposed to protect your mom and your sisters. I said, no, you won't. It's already innate
Yeah.
when it's someone that you love
Yeah.
to be protective of them.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell him that he has to protect me
Right.
and put it on him like it's a job. Put that weight on him. I'm like, he's not the man of this house. He ain't never
Right.
gonna be the man of my house.
Right.
He is a child.
Yeah.
He gets to be a child. It's always the same dudes that are like, well, my mama this, and I turned
Yes.
out okay. And you're like, no,
Yes.
no,
you
you
didn't.
didn't.
No, you didn't. And
You're like, your
being
mama did
honest-
what? Hold on.
And being honest
Right. I'm gonna
about
write
that
this down.
and clear about that is
Yeah.
so necessary. A lot of raising my children grew me up. I'm grateful for that. I started so young and I was so bitter until I was about 30. I'm not even gonna lie. I was so bitter till I turned 30. And then I was like, you know what? I'm tired of carrying this. And my kids, like, I see they're down for me. I'm down for them. Let me raise them now and let them be kids and come up and take my time with them instead of rushing everything to get them out my way to try to get back. And so it's been a balanced life since then, since
Yeah.
about 30 for me.
Well, we talked about men not sharing their emotions, or we teach boys not to cry, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And there's so much truth to that, because a lot of them, like women, were more expressive.
Yeah.
We're more communicative. We will seek therapy before they ever think of it. And the barbershop has, as Nikki, has been a platform for that.
Yes.
The men come into this, and we're black owned here,
Yes.
and we are 99% almost black clientele.
Yes.
So these black men do come in and they sit in our chair, and a lot of them do open up. I don't know about down there, but I know they do with me. And I noticed that everybody that I talk to in some fraction of a way lacks self-love, and
Yes.
including myself. And I'm on that journey of learning how to love myself. But I know that this for a fact, that men will instead of dealing with their solitude and learning how to, learning about themselves and where their trauma comes from, and why do they end up in situations and stuff, they will actually distract themselves with numerous women at one
Yes.
time, so that they're constantly have attention from someone, and they always have a yes girl. Because if you have one here that you love, they're basically the love bombing and all that stuff happens, right? You love them and all that, then you yank it away and you go to the next one, leave this one in anxiety over
Yes.
here. She's constantly
Yes.
waiting for you to call, you're not answering her call, she's freaked out,
Yes.
she's self-doubting herself, she's, thinking that she did wrong, self-blaming and all this, while
Yes.
he's loving on someone else. Then he does the same thing to that one,
Yeah.
goes give it to another one. By the time he comes back to the first one, she's like, hello, yes, I'm available. So he's created yes girls all the time. He'll never be alone, and he'll always be in that
Wow.
position to constantly avoid dealing with his shit.
That is
You
enlightening.
see what I'm saying?
That's why it's important. Like, my son, he started therapy maybe 3 years ago, and the reason is because he would have outbursts, right? And he was always been a good kid, but he was always being happy. And there were 2 times he just like flipped the hell out. I put him in therapy immediately because I'm like, listen, I said, you don't have to be happy all the time because it's okay to not be okay. And I know that there are things that you don't feel like you can tell me that
you would tell someone
that
else.
you will tell someone else. Because what I don't want to happen is him to be older and he doesn't know how to cope and then he's choking the shit out of some shit in the elevator, dragging
Yes.
around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need him to have
Right.
workarounds. I
It
need
is
him
our
to
duty.
understand.
It is our duty.
Either to walk away. I told him, I said, if a girl puts her hands on you, you call the cops on that chick because at no point in time
Is that acceptable?
is that acceptable. And I need you to understand your value and understand what it is that, you know, is acceptable in a relationship, a healthy relationship.
And it's important for your son to know, and all black men, or men in general, to be able to remove themselves from the
Yeah,
situation
in general.
when
Because that is
when it gets
universal.
heated, you know, because
Yeah.
if she called the cops, if it's a black man, he's going to jail,
Yeah.
or he's going to get
Or
out.
or
You know what I
Hispanic.
mean?
Or
I
Hispanic.
ain't called the cops either,
Or
but I'm just saying.
Hispanic. It is so, that is so prominent in both of those cultures.
If it's a white girl, he going to jail.
Right.
Yeah.
Quick.
Look.
Touching a little on what you were saying, just as far as the mother, and I really like how you present yourself as a mother to your son. We're the first women they come in contact with. We really play a big part, regardless to the setup of how we got here or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I have one of those too. That you're talking about, like, wait a minute. I love my baby. He is my challenge, but he's really helping me just be a better individual in understanding people, if nothing else, understanding others. We're the first women they come into contact with. If they have sisters, she's the second. So how they grow up in that environment really shapes their mind. I am we're all here talking, so we like to talk. Nobody's shy and hiding from the camera. So we're very expressive, very communicative with our children. I'm very honest, very clear. I'm not finna play with you. I'm gonna tell you the truth. You need to know. I'm not here to be your friend right now. I'm here to teach and guide and get you on your way, because I'm putting you out in this world, and I don't want them to have to deal with something I lacked. Growing up, seeing mothers take care of their sons, it was a lot of mothers around me that had a lot of sons that go to prison, go to jail. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so sad, one. And to see how they broke down and how they blamed themselves, I was like, I want to be that mom. So my job is not to keep you from that. My job is to teach you how to avoid it if possible, and get all the guilt off of me, because I did my job in teaching you how to go about handling women in domestic violence situations, handling your friends, handling yourself when you're making decisions. And so that's a never-ending a never-ending thing if you're a mother. Some people have children, and they women with kids. But when you're a mother, you take this kind of time out in hopes that someone comes across this podcast and they can, get something out of it, because we obviously care and we have compassion, not just towards our black men, but just men in general, because it's men in general. Then we could talk about our black men, but it's men in general that we have as women such an impression on being mom. Dad is one thing. We're like, your dad gotta teach you how to be a man. Yes, he does. The masculinity comes from him, yes. But those core values really come from where your mother is grounded. And I just truly believe
Well,
that.
science just proved. Well, maybe not proved. It probably was a crappy study, but it feels good, so I'm just be like the news and go with it.
Let's have it.
You know how they be like, green tea.
Yes.
It was shoddy research, but we're gonna put it out
we
there.
gon-
Now
we gon'
everybody
take-
buying green tea.
We gonna see what we can use from it.
Right.
Take what we can
Yeah,
from
no.
it.
So they just did a study that showed that the DNA from your mother, from her X chromosome, is actually what forms your brain.
I believe
And
that.
so I had to be all
Amen.
loud
I
and
believe
proud.
it.
So I put a little post on Facebook. I said, shout out to all the men
Yeah.
that had kids by women in my family.
I know that's right.
I was like, you've been blessed. And I put the article, but
I know that's right.
I think a lot of times that we devalue what we bring to the table because we're required to bring so much and be so much at the
Yes.
table.
Yes.
So
Bring the table.
being
to the
even
table.
just ourselves in the midst of motherhood and a relationship and employment and whatever else it is, you know, there's historically women have been expected to almost essentially just remove themselves, like
Yeah.
be a robotic.
Put yourself last.
I promise you,
Yeah.
I just told her that. I literally, before you guys walked up, I said, you know, I've been single for 2 years. I will say that. My last relationship, I could have sworn that was the one. I don't know why I thought that, because
Girl.
he had a whole family that he was going back and forth with. Like, he'd break up and then it would be me.
Oh,
We
no.
built a whole business together. It was, we lived together, but then she weaponized the kid's life. And then he'd go back because he grew up without his father.
Yeah.
To the point where it was just so traumatic. And I was that person that was like, okay, well, he's not with her anymore, so now I'm here. But it took me, like, leaving with him for a month, helping him find a job, for him to move them down there, get back together with her.
Oh. They sure will use some
Come
strong
on.
ones, won't they?
And we built this whole business, all that stuff. And I said, I need to learn how to, like, love me. Like, and for real, like, not just saying that shit like I love me. Like,
Yeah.
it took a year to heal,
Yes.
to relearn
Yeah.
myself.
Take that time.
And then then I was like, I'm ready to date, but not be in a relationship.
Yes.
And then I said, I'm ready to be in a relationship, which is where I am now.
Mhm.
But to be in a relationship, you have to be ready to be responsible for someone else's feelings. And
Yeah.
that's that situation. Like, am I ready for that? Am I ready to, you know, give up a piece of myself, right? Like, and allow them to give up a piece of themselves and us be responsible for that. And it's like, I treat myself so well now. Like, I'll take myself out to dinner. I take myself on trips. You can come or you don't have to come. But I was settling so much because I felt like, oh, I'm overweight, or because of how I was raised, and because I never felt safe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was looking to feel safe
Yes.
in moments and not consistently.
Yeah.
And I have to make myself feel safe, because how am I of value to someone? You know what I'm saying? If I'm not valuable to myself,
Yes.
right?
Uh-huh.
Now, keep in mind, I have 4 firearms at home. Don't get it
You
twisted.
feel safe. I create safety,
But it's like,
but I need
It's
to feel
different, though.
safe.
Yes.
It's an internal security
Yes.
within
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
I know what
That-
you're saying.
yeah.
That brings me to a question for you, Shelly. I want to ask.
Okay.
You said safe. That's a big point
Yeah.
that we can touch on for a moment. Do you feel protected and safe being a Latina woman? Latina? I can say that. Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
No.
Hold on.
No.
Hold on. Let's make it part 2, okay? Hold
Okay.
on. All right. So coming up next on the next episode, we're going to talk more about self-love and where we're at in our dating lives and stuff like that. So stay tuned.